Welcome, everybody, and thank you for joining us for Immigrant Welcome Center's Rubin Educational Series. This meeting is being recorded. My name is Ginger Kasabutsky. I'm the English Learning Director at Immigrant Welcome Center. This webinar is the third in a series on barriers facing immigrants in Central Indiana. The vision of IWC is to see every immigrant in Indiana thriving. And we know there's more work to do to make our city and state more welcoming to newcomers. To frame today's discussion, in 2018, Indiana's population was made up of 5% immigrants. That number increased to 5.3% in 2022. So the number of immigrants in our state is steadily increasing. As we zone in on Central Indiana, the percentage of foreign-born increases to 7.1%, and as we focus solely on Indianapolis, it increases to 10%, which is about 97,000 people. Roughly 1 in 10 Marion County residents speak a language other than English at home. The barriers they encounter are numerous. The first two gatherings we had were focused on barriers to English language learning. This last gathering is focused on barriers to employment and the various on-ramps to employment available to immigrants and refugees. There are many organizations working hard to reduce barriers and to ease the on-ramps to employment. We're excited to hear from our 4 presenters who are from a refugee resettlement organization, a company that has onboarded many recent Afghan arrivals, the Department of Workforce Development, and a local nonprofit focused on workforce training. We hope to have time for questions at the end. Alex from IWC will be monitoring the chat, and as we go along, if you have questions, please feel free to put your questions in the chat. And now I will be happy to pass it over to Jack Stewart. He is the employment specialist at Exodus Refugee Immigration. So Jack, feel free to introduce yourself and share your presentation, and go ahead.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jack. I work as an employment specialist at Exodus Refugee Immigration. Thank you so much, Ginger, and everyone at IWC for this opportunity to speak and introduce myself and give some information about our programs. Ginger, I was wondering if I should share it from the presentation from my computer.
Yeah, or I can if you can't.
Yeah, I just don't have, I don't have it here like readily easily accessible. It's in my email. So if you could.
Okay, yes, so I'll get it right up.
Okay, thank you so much.
I got some popcorn that I can pop for you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, so I work at Exodus Refugee. We're an Indianapolis-based resettlement agency. And our motto is the life ahead. If you could switch to the next slide, please, Ginger. Thank you. Here's our mission statement. Basically, our goal as an organization is to help refugees become self-sufficient in Indiana. And I'm on the employment team. I personally think employment's one of the fundamental steps to that. because without being employed, without working, it's impossible to contribute to the community and provide for your families and for the refugees to provide for themselves. The clients we help oftentimes are fleeing very traumatic, challenging environments, war, injustice, persecution, based off of any number of factors that are out of their control. So it's certainly an obligation that we feel as an organization and individuals to help these people. Ginger, if you go to the next slide, please. Thank you. So in last year, we welcomed around 700 clients new refugees from 8 different countries. But we're currently serving, I think it's 1,400. So we serve many clients from many different countries, vast diversity of cultures and languages. Some of the countries that we most oftenly serve are individuals from Afghanistan, Democratic Republic of the Congo, Syria, Myanmar. There are different kind of classifications for refugees and immigrants that we serve. So SIV, Special Immigrant Visa, asylees, humanitarian parolees. And these statuses affect, for example, the ability for clients to get certain documentation that's really fundamental. So that's kind of why those distinctions are important, which also affects the ability for our clients to work. So that's why we included that. And our clients speak many different languages, Arabic, Swahili, Pashto, Spanish, among others. And we partner with local companies such as Luna to help us with interpretation. And that's another very important aspect of our work on a daily basis. So our services on the employment team or on the employment side of things generally start with a service plan that's conducted in the first 30 days. So we take basic information about the client's background, education, languages, and that's really key to helping them find and their goals as well, which is important to help them find a job that they'll like and that's aligned with their skills and interests. And we also have transportation is a huge aspect of employment and a huge challenge. We met last week with a local company. It was actually Enterprise and then another organization that helps with transportation. So we're trying our best to teach clients how to use the bus system, help them learn to drive. We have all programs for all sorts of things that help with transportation. And there are other services such as employment readiness training, financial literacy training. It's all with the broader goal of ensuring that our clients will become self-sufficient. And we collaborate a lot with local employers and make it clear that we want to help their organization get the necessary labor and help us and help our clients become self-sufficient, help us place our clients in different jobs. So if you all are curious about our programs, have any questions, Yaza is the manager of the employment team. So there's his email, and you could also contact the Exodus office. And another detail that's important is if you know someone or an individual who is a refugee or from one of the countries I was mentioned, or other countries even, who are not connected with Exodus and could benefit from our services, you can call that number on the bottom, the 317-921, the Exodus number, and we can get them on the wait list to enroll them in our programs. So that's all I have for this presentation. I think we're answering questions at the end.
Yeah, I'll just ask one more question right now. Could you speak a little more? You mentioned the challenges of transportation. I know there's a lot more challenges that they face. Could you speak a little bit more about that before we move on?
Yes, of course. I would say that's our biggest challenge, actually, from the employment side of things, because the clients need to get driver's license, state ID, learn to drive. That's usually one of their first concerns. But before that happens, they have to learn the bus system, or we've actually really leaned on Uber, which is very unsustainable because it's so expensive. So we're trying, as a team, we're working together to come up with creative solutions to solve the problem. Teaching clients the bus system and getting jobs on the bus line is one of our primary focuses now, because that's very affordable and self-sustaining. So that's one kind of way we've tried to solve that. But our main focus is the kind of the sustainability and the affordability of the transportation. So Uber, bus training, ride sharing, gas cards, these are kind of some of the things we do and help with. And sometimes, I wouldn't say often, but sometimes clients actually are able to lease cars or get their own ride, and that's always really great to see, because that facilitates so many things and is so fundamental to living effectively and self-sufficiently.
Okay, and employers, you're looking to partner with more employers?
Oh yes, we're always looking to partner with employers. We have around every month, we have an employer, we call it the Exodus Employer Get Together at our office, where we give a similar presentation to this one, answer questions, introduce ourselves as a team. And that's helpful to build those ties. And we communicate with local employers, and especially to speed up the application process, because sometimes clients don't hear back or they have to wait too long. And it's actually urgent that they start working, because we only have so much support we can provide. So that's kind of our goal with the employer relationship development side of things.
Okay, thank you so much, Jack. And yeah, if there's questions for you, hope you can stick around.
Oh, of course, I'll stick around, and thank you so much for the opportunity to present, and to you all for listening.
Oh, thank you. So speaking of employers, we're going to pass it off to an employer who's here. His name is Sharif Sadiq. He's the Director of Sales and Marketing at the company MW Cold. So Sharif, feel free to unmute.
Well, thank you for the introduction. As you mentioned, with MW Cold, my brother and I, Tim, are half Afghan, so we've had a strong desire to help Afghan refugees, and we've brought on board, almost a year ago, we brought on board 12 Afghan refugees, and we still currently have 11 Afghan refugees presently. The attrition on them has been very minimal. I was going to go through some of the different challenges that we went through and provide some suggestions for other employers that are going through the similar situation. And some of these, I'm sure, are pretty common sense, but I just made a list and I want to go through it. If you're bringing somebody on board, recommending bringing on a local translator or somebody from the same country that can speak the language. Google Translate is also a good app to use for translation. Even through the interview process or skills assessment, and even through training, I would recommend having the interpreter there. I would start with simple tasks. We're a warehouse for cold storage. There's machinery, equipment, forklifts that are utilized, and the warehouse management system. So initially we started out most of the team on sanitation type activities, or on a pick line for product where it's a simple assembly line. One thing to note is, if anybody who would be hiring immigrants, we didn't think about this till it was after we had brought them on, but we had to translate all our SOPs. So be prepared and have all your SOPs translated. be prepared to discuss healthcare and taxes because a lot of the employees or a lot of the immigrants probably are not familiar with those depending on where they came from. If you have somebody that speaks English, I would recommend making them a team lead to help communicate with the rest of the team. One thing of note, you just talk with your current staff about speaking with the immigrant teams. Some depending on where they're from, some people take words literally, so you have to be a little cognizant of what you would bring up or how your team interacts with them. Yeah, just be patient, I guess, with the team members. A lot of the new immigrants are not accustomed to structure, so you need to go through and explain processes and procedures thoroughly. From a transportation perspective, I would recommend pushing all the team to get their driving test immediately so they can get to work on time. We initially were picking up people or utilizing Uber, and that's not very cost efficient. The state may be able to help you as well. We actually, a couple months into it, we end up purchasing a company vehicle, a van that we used once a couple people got their driver's license. And then it's been a year now, and so about half the team has their driver's license. They work with each other and bring each other in to work. I would highly recommend, we brought in a large group of 12, so I would highly recommend if you're doing something similar, bringing scheduling by apartment and by shift, so you can bring groups of people in together. You could also talk to your current staff if they live close to any of the refugees and ask them to help bring them in. There's also, as Jack mentioned, there's the city transportation. Unfortunately, we're not on a bus line here, and the rideshare, as Jack mentioned, is an option as well. But that's such an expensive option. Another area of recognition would be religion. Please be aware of religious holidays for the immigrants. A lot of them will want to participate in there because of their religion. Work with schedules, allow time off during those periods, or ask them to save their vacation time or holiday time for those days. We have most of the Afghan refugees we brought in are Muslims. We allow time for prayer. We work with them with their schedules, kind of schedule around it. The prayer time sometimes changes a little bit, so you got to have a little bit of flexibility there. Maybe even designate a prayer area. Access to a wash-up area prior to prayers may be helpful. Also, recognize food-related religious beliefs, for company meals or outings. For Muslims, it's no pork. Fish would be okay as a good substitute. A couple of some miscellaneous items. We started up. We're a family-owned business. It's probably a little bit easier for us to do this than other companies, but we started up a loan program for all employees, including the Afghan ones, for to help them buy a car for moving or get their first house. Please keep in mind that immigrants may have PTSD coming in. We've got a wellness coach on site. That was something that we had previously in place. Love that idea. If anybody wants any information on that, I can put you in contact with our wellness coach to help. Please also remember that immigrants, a lot of them send money back home to their parents or whoever is not around. So their paycheck, a third or a fourth of it's going back home. Help and just help them with their path to citizenship, and work closely with organizations that can help you assist with onboarding or translating. And also keep in mind that a lot of immigrants arrive with minimal household items. We've asked our team members here to, if they've got duplicates of items or something that no longer need, help share it with the guys that really need it, because they come here with pretty much nothing. So, but overall, the retention from our team has been phenomenal. I think it'd be great for any business. It does help that I can speak Farsi personally, so they like working for somebody that's half Afghan. But in general, I think immigrants want to make money, want to send money back home, and are excited to start a new life. So, and if you guys have questions, I can answer them after this as well.
Okay, thank you, Sharif. Those were some really thorough, wonderful tips. We really appreciate it. And I'm sure there will be some questions afterwards. So thank you. And we will move on to Roy Melton is from the DWD, Department of Workforce Development. He is the Workforce Education Initiative Coordinator. So he's going to share with us about on-ramps available through the Department of Workforce Development, training opportunities, educational opportunities for employment. So take it away, Roy.
Thank you, Ginger. I appreciate that lead in, and thank you all put me in the really good place right after Sharif. He shared some really good information, especially about including civics and working with employers. I think fit in right in the good spot there. So I appreciate that. So I put this in, I'm going to be using a lot of acronyms, but I'll try not to. So in adult education, we deliver foundational skills development, career pathways, and career counseling services to adults and out-of-school youth for purposes of employment or enhanced employment. To that end, we provide remediation for the high school equivalency, English language acquisition, transitions to higher education, where we help people, with the Accuplacer for Ivy Tech, certification training, and workforce programs. So Ginger asked me to kind of talk about one of our programs called IELCE, Integrated English Language and Civics Education. That one is geared specifically for people who are learning English. ELL is our acronym for English language learners. You probably use ESL. And then WEI is our Workforce Education Initiative. When you see that, just think of an educational relationship that we have with an employer to provide training to incumbent workers or to help them get new employees. And then IET is our Integrated Education and Training. When you hear that, just think of a certification course for an industry recognized credential. So, getting your CNA, certified nursing assistant, or your CDA, which is your child development associate. So let's talk about what an IELCE is, Integrated English Language and Civics Education. So we do this to provide, defined as education services provided to English language learners who are adults, including professionals with degrees and credentials in their native countries that enable adults to achieve competency in English language and acquire the basic and more advanced skills needed to function effectively as parents, workers, and citizens in the United States. So what does that look like in a course? So we kind of break it up into kind of these four different columns. So one, we have of course, the English language acquisition. And then we also have the civics. All of this stuff is happening simultaneously. And then we will include some form of workforce training. It can include a certification, like an IET. But most of the time for the ones that we do, they usually include career exploration, where we're kind of teaching English language acquisition in the context of maybe healthcare or home health aid or digital literacy. So we'll do it in that's kind of the career exploration piece. And so our IELCEs are supposed to serve as a bridge to our IETs, which are, again, the industry recognized credential courses. And we also include workforce prep activities in these courses as well, like, leadership, teamwork, problem solving, professionalism, and things like that. So I particularly picked a couple of IELCEs in which we call Region 5, but is in this Indianapolis area. So the two programs that I want to highlight are Central 9 Adult Education and Washington Township Adult Education. Central 9 has three different IELCEs. One where that workforce training, career exploration is focused on digital literacy. One is for early childhood education, and the other is for home health aid. And then also Washington Township, they do three different ones, but they're all for a bridge to medical pathways because they have IETs, the certification courses, like the medical interpreter, which is one of the top certifications that we do as a state, and Washington Township is a leader in that. And then they also do the certified medical assistant. So let's take a closer look at one of Central 9's. So this one is interesting to me, their IELCE for applied digital skills in the workplace. So this one is to provide students with limited English proficiency, technical instruction, and practical experience necessary in a career requiring computer skills. The literacy component will improve ELL students reading, ELL English language learner, students reading, writing, and comprehension skills in English and mathematics. Students will work on vocabulary development, writing skills, reading academic texts, civics, and career readiness skills. So you see how it has those elements that we spoke of just previously here about the English language, the civics, and then the career exploration along with the workforce prep, okay? Or they call it career readiness. So this is taken from their first day of the IELCE. This is their curriculum and digital skills. And so you see those first two columns, just give you the day and the week. And then you have that workforce training that starts off, with basic of how to turn on the device, naming the different aspects of the computer hardware, how to log on and shut down the computer, demonstrate the different knowledge and appropriate use of mouse clicks. And so it starts out very basic. And then that next column, we talk about the English language acquisition, and it's all done in the context of computers. So here they have to read a text about computers, a brief history, and answering comprehension questions about the main idea. So we've incorporated all of this to kind of reinforce the digital skills motif, so to speak. And then we have the civics here, and then the last column, you see the workforce preparation. Now, this one does start off basic and digital skills, but the course does kind of ramp up to include Microsoft Excel, PowerPoint, and Word, kind of the basics of how to use those programs. This competency-based course focuses on technical and practical basic computer operation. This includes the word processing, file management, internet applications, email, and computer ethics and security. Students will prove their ability to complete common workplace activities using cloud-based tools to create and share documents, spreadsheets, presentations, and files. They will demonstrate they can communicate effectively with email and online meeting solutions, which we all had to use some form of that to be here today. So hopefully we can all appreciate that. And another thing that is really interesting about this is that I never grasp how hard it can be for people who are learning English, how to create a new password where you have to do, large capital letters, lowercase letters. You have to use special characters and things like that. So having something where we can kind of help students figure that out is, I think, really imperative. Another one that I mentioned earlier was Washington Township's Medical Pathways IELCE. And so this one is we'll have students will be introduced to workplace expectations and skills, and we'll also learn about careers in the medical field. Career pathways to also provide vocabulary and terminology specific to this industry. At the conclusion of the course, students may be able to continue to ABE, so that's adult basic education classes, or transition to the medical interpreting class. So as I mentioned earlier, this IELCE serves as kind of a bridge for students to get into the medical interpreting course where they can get a certification for that. And so this one in particular, I believe they use different resources from the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services. That's also incorporated into this one. So I took, this one is not from day 2. This is like maybe a week or 2 into it. And so you see here in that far left column after the week and day, the workforce training, we do use Burlington English, which is an online platform that we use for English language acquisition, but they also have training, workforce training and workforce prep integrated into that program. And so this one, they're looking at the career clusters for health science. And then you see the next 2 columns are for the English language acquisition, followed by the civics. And then you see they have the United States CIS.gov site. And then the last column is the workforce prep. And this one again is facilitated by the Burlington English program, okay? And so again, this is a bridge into the IET, which again is our certification program. And so IETs are integrated education and training. Now these provide adult education and literacy activities simultaneously and contextually with workforce preparation activities and workforce training for a specific occupational cluster. So they take a real similar form to what we just saw as far as the curriculum, where we have the workforce training, the adult education, and the workforce prep. All of this is happening simultaneously and contextually. So the workforce training is just what needs to be done so you can get the certification, whether it's CNA or Parapro or something like that, or medical interpreting. The adult education and literacy, that is the remediation that we do in context with whatever workforce training that we're doing that complements the work that is going on in the workforce training portion of the course. A lot of times we can use this to hit some of those difficult concepts that training providers can kind of let us know. You know, some of them may have issues with math, so we can emphasize that in this portion of the course. And then also the workforce preparation activities, which are commonly referred to as soft skills, but we talked about, you know, communicating effectively, teamwork and professionalism and things like that. So those are all included into that program. And after a certain amount of weeks, a student will leave with their certification. So what are some of the certifications in Central Indiana, which we refer to as Region 5. Region 5 does a lot of medical certifications. The top one would definitely be medical interpreting. As a state, however, the top 15 that we did last year were NCCR, which is the construction, then the CNA and CCMA, which are both medical, welding, followed by Parapro, logistics, and then certified medical interpreter, HVAC, you know, heating and cooling, child development associate, customer service and sales, CDLA, the CNC, which is computer, advanced manufacturing, and then certified production tech, followed by phlebotomy. So those are, you know, the top 15 that we do as a state. And these are all the ones that we currently are doing in Indianapolis in the Central Indiana Region 5 area. So we also partner with a couple of employers to do pre-apprenticeships. And so working with employers leads us to the Workforce Education Initiative. Now, this is a partnership between adult education and Hoosier employers to help employees retain jobs, improve performance, and advance in their professions. Employers desire a better skilled workforce in order to optimize safety, increase productivity, and improve quality in the workplace. So, and so we also offer this to help employees attain industry recognized credentials, which again, we use our IET, Integrated Education and Training, and qualify for additional training as well. Relationships between adult education providers and employers result in measurable benefits for adult education participants whether they are current or prospective employees. So one example of this is we do have, sometimes we work with an employer who requires a high school equivalency, and they will have people that don't have it. And so they may hire them on part-time as long as they work with us in adult ed to get their high school equivalency within a certain amount of time. Once they get it, then they'll hire them on full-time. So these can take many, many forms. We have a partnership with IU Health to do several medical certifications. We partner with the Indiana Construction Roundtable Foundation and a consortium of employers to do the NCCR, which is the construction again. We partner with Duncan Supply to do HVAC. We partner with B&W Plumbing, Heating and Cooling for a plumbing pre-apprenticeship. We partner with Indiana, Kentucky, Ohio Regional Council of Carpenters for a pre-apprenticeship where students get their high school equivalency if they don't have it, and they also get a welding certificate. We partner with Rolls-Royce to do math remediation, and this one is also to prepare them for a Rolls-Royce pre-apprenticeship program. And we partner with Luna Language to do all of those medical interpreting credentials I mentioned previously. So I just wanted to give a couple of, because I'm out of time now, I see. I just wanted to give a couple
You're
of
fine,
examples.
Roy. You're
Okay.
fine.
I wanted to give a couple of examples of our WIs. I think we're all fluent in DWD acronyms now, right? So the WEIs built around ELL. So the workforce programs built around English language learner remediation. So one, I wanted to talk about Amazon. We have a couple of programs that are working with them. Right now, we have about 56 enrollments over 3 courses, and the most successful ones are being held on Amazon property. They let us they provide us with a classroom space for about 6 hours a week for course time, and that's Central 9 and Warren Township that work with Amazon. And then Dormicaba, they have 33 enrollments to date, and they also coordinate the class and allow employees to attend twice a week, and they do two three-hour courses. So another example is Heartland Food Products. They make the Splenda. They partner with Washington Township, and right now they have about 45 enrollments. This one is I'm really proud of the work that Washington Township did with Heartland, because they developed this course over years of working with them, actually. So they contribute space, let us have space there to do our courses. They give us technology and help recruit students. This is one is special because they created their own assessment together. And once they finish that, they're eligible for other things. So this is a safety assessment where they include safety vocabulary, names for plant machinery, and they have to be able to explain. And then the actual assessment, they take pictures from the plant and include that in the assessment. They include workplace acronyms that are essential and things like that. Lastly, these are kind of 2 newer ones. Indy Reads is partnering with PACOS, and they're doing something for their management hiring pipeline to help with their ELL remediation. And then also Washington Township is doing another one similar to the Heartland one with Stratosphere Quality, where they're creating a new vocabulary assessment that will hit on safety, plant machinery, doing the weights and the US and not the metric system, workplace acronyms, and they also are contributing space and things like that. And Ginger, you can please share this with folks. And if anyone has any questions after this, they can definitely email me or call me.
Okay, thank you so much, Roy. And yes, we will share everything that we're talking about today. So I want to pass it off to our last speaker. She's waited patiently. Maria Baca Vilches is with Project Azul. She's the Workforce Success Manager. So Maria, tell us about Project Azul and what you do there.
Thank you so much, Ginger. And I know a lot of people, in here that already are aware of Project Azul, but for those who don't know what Project Azul is doing in the community or who we are as an organization, I want to briefly share, like about our mission and the work that we're doing. And then, allow for questions. I'm going to be very brief because again, like the work that we're doing is not that technical. So, but nevertheless, it's very impactful. As Ginger stated, my name is Maria Baca Vilches, and I am with Project Azul serving as a workforce success manager. Project Azul is a nonprofit organization focused on workforce development. Our mission is to provide individuals with the flexible training and the financial assistance needed to transition from unemployment or underemployment into full-time positions, offering higher wages, access to benefits, and a pathway to career advancement. We provide participants with individualized coaching support. So we meet with participants and conduct an assessment, and basic needs assessment, just to understand where they are when they meet with us. And that is just, again, to assess what needs they have. We work with a robust, network of community partners to then refer them if we don't have services in-house. And then, again, we partner with, like our community-based organizations to offer, a broad range of resources. And so once we assess the individual and we, provide the different training options, we then, coordinate training with them. So we enroll them in one of our in-demand employer aligned training programs. And once the program is complete, then we connect them to an employer partner. Currently, we are working with about 20 employer partners, and MW Cult is one of them. So it's great to hear, like all the great things that, Sharif went, and explained, because a lot of the work that Project Azul is doing with employers is basically bringing awareness of, like the different populations that are being overlooked. And one thing that we're doing is advocating for these populations. And some of the populations that we're serving is, of course, like immigrants and refugees, but we're also focusing our efforts with the second chance individuals, because again, opportunities for them are so limited and scarce. And we're working, with employer partners to make them aware of, like these are untapped populations that you're overlooking. So when discussing, like barriers to employment, of course, language, is one of the main ones. And why that is, it's because of, like a lot of the, like a lot of the things that, like the previous speakers, like touched on, which many people come from different countries. They don't understand, like the workplace norms here in the US. And so it's difficult for them to, like adjust, not just to the life, but also, like to the work because of the structure, because of the language barrier, because of so many different, like barriers that they're facing. But the primary one that we see at Project Azul, of course, like with the language limitation, there are limited positions that they can do. And we understand, like coming, like from the perspective of an employer, the, liabilities that exist within, providing individuals the opportunities because you have somebody who's not understanding of, like the directions that they're, like need to follow. And so what we're trying to do is something that, Sharif mentioned is placing team leads, like so that they can bring groups of individuals and assist them with the interpretation services that they're going to need. And also, like so that they can understand the culture as well. Because what happens many times is that although many employers are willing to serve different populations, they don't have the structures in place, right? What we face a lot of times is like employers are not willing to do it, but when there is an employer, who is willing to do it, then we, provide, like those employees, key employees, so that we can begin, like working with them and expanding their cultural diversity within the company. And so again, like just going back to that language barrier, it's significant and it limits people. So I'm just going to touch briefly on the trainings that we provide so people understand the different, training opportunities available to them. And if you have any individuals that may benefit from these opportunities, feel free to refer them over to us. So we offer forklift training. Within that training, individuals do get a license. They get a certificate of completion from Vincent's University Logistics Training and Education Center. The forklift training is a 16-hour training. It's mostly hands-on, and individuals would come out with, like the license that shows, the trucks that they are most proficient on. So they get the chance to get certified on 6 different equipment, types of equipment. And so not everybody, gets to qualify for the 6 of them, but at least, like 2 of them. The majority of people, of course, like they do tend to get that certification and that license. But for the ones who don't, typically it's only for the sit-down forklift and another 2 that are not as technical. We also offer team leadership training, again, through Vincent's University. That's a 12-hour course, and it touches a lot on, like the soft skills needed for individuals to be able to lead teams of efficient individuals, efficient teams. And so a lot of the skills that they learn, it's mostly soft skills, and it teaches them about, like what is the difference between being a leader and a manager and when to apply each one of those skills. And then the last training that we offer is with our partnership through Purdue Manufacturing Extension Partnership, and that is the Skills for Success. That is a lengthier program. It's 40 hours, and it's like a manufacturing boot camp. And so individuals will, again, get a certificate of completion with the Purdue partners and the OSHA 10 certificate as well. So again, that's in a nutshell. The programs that we offer, how we're doing it, and some of the things that we're doing to support, those in the community that are needing, the services. So if there are any questions, feel free to, like ask away. And thank you so much for the opportunity.
Oh, thank you, Maria. And it sounds like then you're serving both the clients, the immigrants and the refugees coming to you, and you're also working with the employers to help support them to actually onboard more effectively. Is that correct?
Absolutely, yes. And again, one of the biggest passions of mine is, creating equitable opportunities for individuals. Again, we have had partnerships with companies that unfortunately have been, have faded away because the companies are not willing, to implement changes or to even be open to, like us, providing, any type of support to them. And so with that, it's like that goes against, our mission. And so we have actually kind of like let those partnerships go because it's not for the, best interest of our participants.
Right, that makes sense. Yeah, so thank you so much for sharing all of that. We really appreciate it. And we're going to address some of the questions in the chat. The first one is for Sharif. It's from Megan from Childcare Answers. How did you as an employer fund some of the programs you offer for your employees? How did you fund a prayer room, translation of SOPs, etc.? She's just curious how other employers can replicate this potentially with limited resources. Sharif, you want to speak on that?
Sure. As far as the prayer room, we actually had some space that wasn't being utilized. We've got there's several old rooms. The building's been around since 1951. We got several rooms. We have a fitness center with a couple rooms that were attached to it. It wasn't being utilized, so it was easy to convert it to a prayer room. But on the note about prayers, a prayer room is not necessary. Muslims can pray without a prayer room, so to speak, but we had the space and we thought it was a good thing to do at that point in time. And as far as the translating the SOPs, we also got lucky there. One of the gentlemen that is on our team was a government contractor for the United States and speaks English well. So he was able to, we just gave him a laptop and he translated a lot of the material for us. So it was a pretty simple process. So I helped a little bit, but his Darcy is a lot better than mine. So and we just had team members take initiatives on different the different segments of the company, you know, the maintenance and the you know, the supervisors and everything for each department worked with Ilham to try to get everything done.
And it sounds like you were very committed to the process, which makes a huge difference, I think, from what Maria shared.
Yes, we helped a large group of people leave Afghanistan, so we were committed. Plus, some of them were distant relatives.
Mhm. Yeah, wonderful. So now we have a question for Roy, two questions for Roy about the Amazon location with the English classes. I think you answered it, but if you could just quickly address that. And then if somebody knows somebody, like someone has a person who was a medical secretary in her home country, and how could that person get into a DWD certification option, right?
So the fulfillment center is the app and their property. I put the address in the chat. And then the second one was about if you have a certification or you have the training in your native country. A lot of the programs in the central Indiana area do medical certification. So you can reach out to any one of those, and please copy my email down. I'll put it in the chat. I'll put it in there again. And email me and I can let you know which one may be in your county or something like that. And they can get you straightened out.
So that's what they should do, is email you directly?
Well, I mean, there's a way they can look if if they just do a search and go to our DWD website, they can see the all the adult ed programs in their area, and so they can it has the addresses and all that stuff on there, so they can see which one is closest to them. And a lot of times, a lot of those programs have a lot of information on their websites, so you can see the actual trainings and all that kind of stuff that they offer.
Mhm. Okay,
So you
yeah.
can that's one way you can do it. Is just go to our DWD website. You type in Indiana DWD adult education, it'll go straight to one of our websites. Look for adult education locations, and you can search for Region 5. That's the region that you're in. Or you can put in your address or look for your address, anything around that, and you'll find one close to where you are at.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, it looks like Camelia Manring put the website.
Thank
in-
you, Camelia.
Okay, Alex, were there any other questions I missed?
There was a follow-up to one of the questions about Amazon that I don't think we've gone over yet. So for Roy, Megan had asked, do you happen to know for immigrants working at Amazon that are maybe not directly employed by them, but are working through outside staffing agencies, would they qualify for the programs offered?
I'm not really sure about that. I think it just kind of depends because we hold it on their location. So whoever's there working for Amazon and they're at that location at the time that we have the classes, I don't think we're at the door checking to make sure you're a direct hire if you're through the staffing agency. So I would say you could probably just go and attend the classes. But if there's a staffing agency that you're working with, you can let us know, and maybe we can set something up with that subcontractor to do something more formal. And then also they can go to the adult education programs and attend ELL courses on it as well.
Excellent.
Alex, was there anything else?
There's one question more at the beginning for Jack at Exodus Refugee. Deanna had asked about referrals. So first part of this question was, I guess, how to refer someone. Should folks give the number to someone for them to call? And then do referrals have to have a particular refugee or asylum status?
Oh, that's a really good question. So I would usually, when people want to enroll in our services, they actually come to the office. But this doesn't always happen. But yeah, I think giving the specific individual the number could be impaired by the language barrier. I mean, of course, the person answering the phone usually will call an interpreter or get someone from staff to interpret. But I think if they call, we can get them on a waiting list. I think it's usually a couple. Right now it's a couple months, and it does depend on the status. But we serve lots of different statuses, and so we would get that information from them and hopefully be able to provide our services.
Jack, do you mind if sorry, can
oh,
I?
of course, yeah, Carrie, you have more expertise than I do. So
no, not to interrupt you. I work with Jack at Exodus. I just want to add a little bit. Yeah, we do definitely have walk-ins. I think what we advise people is if they can go ahead and call our office to make an appointment. It does get a little confusing which statuses we work with, and that's just due to our grant funding. Like, we're federally funded to provide services to particular immigration statuses, which includes refugees, asylees, Cuban and Haitian entrants, humanitarian parolees from Afghanistan or Ukraine, special immigrant visa holders, and then we have a small asylum seekers program. So I know that is a lot, that's a lot to remember. But yeah, if you have somebody that you are not sure if they're eligible, I think, yeah, they could call our office. Like Jack mentioned, we can get an interpreter on the line, and then we can, kind of assess whether they're eligible. We do have a lot of people seeking to enroll. So we do have, as he mentioned, a wait list for people that are not directly resettled through our agency. So we have, the direct refugees that we directly welcome, and then we have many other populations that we also serve. So, yeah, I would say that's probably the best way to for them to get in touch with us. So thanks, Jack. Sorry to jump in on you there.
oh, thank you for all the additional information.
Yeah, and Carrie, someone's asking if they're not eligible, where would they go from there? Who would you refer them to? Who would Exodus refer them to?
Yeah, I mean, I think that would just really depend on like what they're looking for help with. So if it's somebody who isn't eligible for our services, I mean, we do a lot in addition to employment. I don't know if the question is specifically about employment or about like case management services or other. We do a lot of different things, but all the things. Yeah. I mean, we'll often make referrals to maybe Firefly for case management services, or like if it's work, different employers, that might be on here, staffing agencies, things like that. I think a lot just depends on like what they're looking for help with. And then yes, you're right. We are able to serve people for up to 5 years from their date of arrival into the United States. Yeah, that is correct.
Okay, thank you. So we're about to wrap up. Someone asked just to speak about the qualifications of teachers at Indy Reads, Exodus, IWC. I can just quickly mention that they're not all volunteers. Many of them are paid. Some are volunteers, but not all. And I also wanted to touch for a second on the value of translation and interpretation services, because as Maria W. said, who she has to leave, but there are a lot of professional interpreters who are immigrants and refugees themselves who have gone through training and work for the interpretation services. And a company, a school, an educational organization, any organization investing in interpretation and translation services is so important. So I just wanted to put in a plug for that. I don't work for any interpretation, or I don't work for them, but I just know how valuable it is. And it may seem like a cost, but it's a cost worth bearing if we really want to make the on-ramps easier and language more accessible. Okay, so there's more information coming in. It's 2:00, so we're going to end. I want to say a big thank you to Sharif and to Jack and to Roy and to Maria. Thank you for sharing with us today, and we really appreciate it. And thank you all for attending. And have a great day. We'll stay here if there's more questions coming in, but everyone else is free to go.